Welcome to Zen Jen Pet Specialists. I am here today with Stephen Quandt, and we are going to be talking about cats. Stephen is going to be participating on this podcast lots. You're going to hear lots from Stephen. We're going to get together. Stephen has a very wonderful and extensive cat background that he will explain to us. Welcome, Stephen. Thanks for coming. And your cat, Jenny, is with us.
Yes, she is. Thank you, Jen, for having us. And yes, Jenny is on my shoulder right now, my blind from birth girl.
Yes, she's incredible. You wouldn't know she's blind. Like I'm watching her even in the background, right? She's jumping on furniture. It's just amazing. And she's rubbing all over you. And if you're listening, you may actually hear her purring the odd time because she was just a second ago kind of rubbing her face on the mic and you could hear the purr, which we all love, right?
And yeah, I do. And maybe someday we'll do an episode about her.
Yes, that would be great. I think people would find her story quite fascinating. I know I do. It's amazing. So Stephen and I met through Airbnb online experiences. So this is a platform. Most people are familiar with Airbnb. They in 2020 released what's called the online experience now. So you don't even have to leave your home to have a really incredible experience with people from all over the world. If you have not checked this out yet, I really recommend people go and check it out. Tell us a little bit the name of your experience on Airbnb, Stephen.
Yep, it's called Cat Behavior Help with the Behaviorist Pro. And I can tell you as we go through this a little bit about how that all started.
Excellent.
But that is how we met. And maybe you want to tell
Yeah.
our friends how that actually happened.
Yeah. So when I went to sign up for this and create my experience, I kind of was, looking through and stalking a few other people, what they were doing, because I wanted to stay in alignment with other people. But you just jumped out at me. And I looked at what you were doing and how you laid things out. And I thought, oh, I like what this guy's got going on, and I I took your images and was like, I kind of got to do them like his. I looked up to what you were doing. And then before I knew it, you sent me an email and reached out to me. And I thought that was really cool. And I don't know how that even happened, but that's how we got connected.
And I tend to do mentoring in my life. In various contexts. And when I saw you, I saw that you didn't have any reviews yet. And I knew that you were new because when you have someone who has no reviews, it means they've just started. And I had some people mentored me a little bit at the beginning of Airbnb. And so that's why I wanted to reach out and offer you some help, guidance, tips, whatever. And boom, that's how we met.
And then here we are. And you know what? I have so much appreciation for that because I think collaboration is so important. We tend to get stuck in competition where we think we're competing, right? And we're always, against the next guy, and we got this comparison thing going on. And so to approach this as a way of mentoring and collaborating in something, it just means more success for everybody. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and look what happened. Now we're doing podcasts together.
Yeah.
I never would have predicted that, not in a million years.
No. And when we met, it just kind of was like this instant click. You invited me to join your experience so I could see what it was
Right.
all about. And I was blown away. Just 1 hour with you, I learned more about cats than I ever thought you could learn about cats. And every time I talk to you, I learn something.
And yet you made really wonderful and positive contributions. And that's because I think that we talk the same language. We have a different approach in some respects, but our goals are the same and we really think in similar ways. And so that I think we connected that way very well.
Yeah, I think our main connection and something we agree on deeply is that animals are not people. Right? Isn't this, this is a big mistake that we humans tend to do is humanize our animals,
Yep.
and we can do better for our animals if we keep them in the animal category. Correct?
Absolutely. Which
Yeah.
doesn't mean that they don't have an emotional life.
Right.
It doesn't mean that they don't make choices and have desires and concerns, but it's all from their perspective, not from our perspective.
Yes, absolutely. Separating ourselves from them and understanding from putting ourselves in their shoes, right, is a better way to have a healthy relationship with your
Yeah.
cat. So tell us a little bit about your background, how you ended up being a cat behavior pro.
So yeah, briefly, a long time ago, I trained as a theatrical lighting designer, and I did that for many years, lighting musicals and plays and things like that. And I started volunteering about 20 years ago for a cat rescue group here in New York City. And then I started volunteering for the ASPCA. And then I was asked if in 2011, if I could fly the next day to Joplin, Missouri, where one of the worst tornadoes that hit the United States occurred and basically flattened an entire town. And I worked in the cat shelter, which was in a aluminum warehouse in a field. And within a week or so, I was in charge of the cat shelter, and our population had grown from 100 cats to 425.
Wow.
And when that was over, and it was a life-changing experience, it's where I learned for the first time really what it means to relieve suffering in another creature.
Mm.
Something that I wish we taught at a level below the professional level, before seminary, before medical school, before therapy school,
Mm.
and that we taught this to our children. But
Yeah.
in any case, I had that experience, and then I got a contract with the Field Investigations and Response Team at ASPCA, which is the group that does nationwide cases having to do with animal cruelty, criminal cases, dogfighting, as an example, and disaster cases. And I worked for them for about 8 years, freelance. It's kind of at times commingled with my theatrical career. I would go from shows to deployments. It's very strange.
Yeah.
And uh, and then finally, after coming back from a case where I had 18 hand warmers all over my body, I was doing a case in Iowa in the winter, and it was cold. And I came back home and I looked for full-time work in New York City, and I saw that the animal care centers of New York, the city shelter, I was looking for a feline behavior specialist, and I applied, and I got actually a higher level job in the same department, and worked there for about 2 years. Was ultimately, excuse me, laid off in November due to COVID-related budget cuts. But during the COVID time, I was working from home. I started working on Airbnb, and I decided to become, essentially on my off time, a private behavior consultant, which is what I do now. Uh, Although I still have a super strong relationship with ACC in New York, and my colleagues and friends who work there. So that's the shortest version I could give you that would be truthful.
Yeah. Very nice. Amazing. So you are now working one-on-one with any, cat owners who have some issues and problems, um, and helping them with their cat problems or behavior issues, which is amazing and lovely. And so we've gotten together and we've decided that we want to share this information. We want to help people, like getting together and collaborating and working together and helping people in any way we can, and sharing our knowledge with each other and with our audience, and just hoping to make the world a better place for cats and all animals and humans. We love them all. So I'm really excited
And
about.
I think that I can mention, because this is not a secret. If you're listening to this or watching this and you have a cat behavior problem and would effectively like a free consultation, you can apply to us on the show to be a guest.
Yeah.
There's going to be contact information at the end of every episode for Jen and myself. And if you fit into what our plan is, if we've kind of solved that problem before, we might not want to do that so quickly again. But if it fits with our basic plan, we would have you on the show. But Jen, do you want to give us a little background about yourself?
Yes. So I am a animal intuitive or animal communicator, and I've been doing this for about 7 years. And I mostly deal with dogs, but generally speaking, I'm dogs, cats, and horses, the three top domesticated animals, the most humanized animals that we have. And they have such a deep relationship with humans now because we bring them into our beds. They're sleeping with us. They're sitting, my pug sits at the kitchen table like she has her own chair. This is just what we do, right? So, and we've created such a deep and intertwined relationship with our animals that my goal has been to educate people on how to basically slowly separate this intertwining that we've got going on so that you can be the human and they can be the animal, but you can be together and have a much healthier relationship. We have behavior problems in dogs that are almost always linked to the human's behavior. This is all the time. The human changes their behavior, the dog changes their behavior. Same with horses and with cats too. And we're going to get into details on that on future episodes here about behavior within these animals, particularly cats in this case, and how sometimes it's kind of our fault, where sometimes we participate in and encourage behaviors that we're not particularly happy with. So that's where we hope to help people see that and then be able to correct their behavior, which in turn corrects the animal's behavior. So this is what I love to do, and I love to work with people one-on-one. I also work in groups on my Airbnb, but I also love teaching people how to communicate with their animal deeper, because they're doing it all the time anyways, and they don't realize. And a lot of the time, people are sending the wrong message. They don't realize they're sending the wrong message, and they can't understand why the dog's not getting it. And so there's some quick tips there to change that.
And you're brilliant at it. I have to say, Jen, you did a consultation with a friend of mine who has a dog, and I just took a walk with her this morning and did a check-in with her, and it is still going spectacularly well. The
Really?
dog is, yeah, he has separation anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
and with what Jen offered her, that they've been practicing, they'd all left the apartment the other day, and when they came back, he was sitting calmly on his bed. It's like a first, and
Yay.
he's also not barking.
Oh,
They talk to him, in a way where they ask him not to bark, and it works. It's
yes.
brilliant.
It's
So
amazing, right?
congratulations. It's a
Oh,
fantastic. Yep.
that is incredible feedback. Thank you for that. I love hearing this. I love hearing, and it really is some really simple tweaks. And anybody I share this information with always says to me, that makes so much sense, Jen. It's not complicated. It's just that we're maybe looking at it a little skewed. Our perspective is maybe a little off. And you shift it and you go, oh, well, that makes sense. And then all of a sudden, all these behaviors start to change. So it's really easy. It's just consistent. You got to be consistent and persistent in what you're looking for. So that's amazing. And that's all I want to do is bring harmony to people's homes is what it comes down to.
And I think you would agree with me, because when we talk about how we communicate with animals and how we sometimes get it wrong, in terms of what they're thinking and feeling, and the difference between them as animals and us as people. But I think you'd agree with me that you and I, the way we approach this with people is in a non-judgmental way.
Absolutely.
That we don't judge you. We're just trying to compassionately guide you
Mm-hmm.
towards a solution. As I've said to many people, I don't need to work with any more crazy cat ladies, and I am done with people who are judgy.
Yeah,
I just can't deal with that. So, and I know
absolutely.
that you feel the same way.
I do. And you know what? Something I always say to people when you're seeking help from someone like myself or someone like you, that's because you love your animal so much. And so I can't argue with I think it's incredible. If you love your animal that much that you're looking for help, I think you're amazing. I don't judge anything you've done. It's just a matter of, hey, maybe try it this way. It's like learning. It's just learning, and it's learning a different way and a new way. And so we just want to help. And it's no matter what the issue is, no matter what the problem is, we can help you find the solution for it.
And I think one of the things I've come across, I'm curious if you have come across this as well, when people approach you for the first time, it's their first kind of foray into reaching out for help, that it's a big deal for them. They've been thinking about this. They've been wondering if they should do it. They're a little bit nervous sometimes.
Yeah.
What's going to happen? Is it worth it? And I always try and communicate to them that I'm grateful that they've contacted me, that, I will help them in this kind of collaborative, educational, non-judgmental approach, and support them in feeling confident that they've done the right thing.
Yeah. And I think we both offer support after. So if you book a session with either of us, it's not like we're done with you. It's like I'm always
Right.
saying, I want to know in a week how things are going. Message me, let me know what stumps did you hit, what blocks have you got going on, or what successes do you have? I want to keep that open. I want to see success. It's not like I'm going to work with you once and then walk away. We want success, right? Would you not agree with that?
Absolutely. And, and success sometimes takes a little bit of time and some practice and some tweaks. And so, I provide effectively unlimited support by email. I don't have a time limit. If we can
Mhm.
type our way through the question, then that's what we do. And if
Yeah.
it's big enough that it needs another session, then we can do that. But oftentimes
Mhm.
we just send emails back and forth as needed. But I always want my clients to feel like they have someone to turn to now that they've gone through that process, and that I'm available for them. And
Absolutely.
I know you do too.
Yeah. And that's because we love animals and we love the humans that love animals, and we want everybody to just feel the love. We're just spreading the love, and it's not about anything other than that for us. So this is just what we would do. We help people. So, and we help animals. So we actually got it pretty good. I really love my job, right? Like I just love it. And, I have, and I know you have mentioned this before too. We get a lot of repetition, right? So you get the same issue over and over and over again, yet I'm never bored of it. And I'm always willing to help, like it's just bring it on. And it does tend to repeat itself, right? You have the same kind of thing happen.
It does, but they're all individuals.
Yeah.
There are twists. I had a cat recently who appeared to be a litter box guarder. He would charge and attack you if you were cleaning the litter box.
Wow.
And interestingly, we solved it by leaving a little stool behind so that they didn't clean everything out of the box. And when he
Ah,
saw that there was some stool left behind, he was okay. And in fact, they cured him of it. But he had other sound aversions. And if you made certain noises, it turns out the noises that tended to set him off sounded like a hiss,
oh,
a plastic bag being smushed, something else that was similar, and it would really set him off. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting because the sound of scraping litter has a kind
mm,
of hissy sound to it. And so it's
yes.
really maybe what we think now is that he's having a kind of cat reaction to another cat who's not there, but it's evocative to him
Yes.
because of the type of the sound that it is. And so, even though I've never had litter box guarding before, I've had other types of guarding behaviors. And dogs obviously have resource guarding issues more commonly than
Yeah.
cats. But to your
Mhm.
point, yes, there's repetition, but then there's also the specificness, the
Yeah.
specificity of individuals.
Right. And it is about assessing it too, right? Because sometimes it is the animal and it can be something that you can just change, helping the animals, their mentality, where they've come from, their history, all of that combined. Or maybe in this situation, it's the human, maybe their history and their things that they can change, right? So every situation is unique, even though the problem itself may be repetition. But there's no problem that can't be addressed. And so I think as long as we just keep that space open for people and let people know, bring us the problem. And like you already mentioned, and we've already done some recordings where we're bringing people on the show for free, working with them for free to just share with the world some of the experiences other people are having with their animals. So they know they're not alone. So you're not alone in your problems. And then, maybe you actually get some solutions out of listening to some of these recordings.
Right. And I think it's fair to say that we're both, for whatever reasons, we've each made this decision, but we're both affordable. There
Yes.
are people out there, at least in the feline behavior world, who charge 200, 300, 400 or more dollars for a session. And I made a decision early on when I was with Airbnb, where I still am, and I still do behavior classes. But in terms of private consultations, I decided to make it more approachable and not push away the people who
Mhm.
would, who can afford a certain amount of money but don't want to be spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Because those folks, they end up just going to social media and putting their problem up. And then there's what I call the dartboard approach of solutions where people just toss darts at you. Try this, try that, try this, and you don't know what to do, and you're kind of stuck. So I don't know if you want to address that, but that's the
Yeah, I agree. And it's also why I help people in follow up too. You don't have to book another full session, right?
right,
Because that's the other thing is that
right.
it just starts to accumulate, and it just, you give up, right? When if money is going to be an issue, then there's always ways to get around that. If you just don't have the money, I'm going to help you anyways. I remember once a friend of mine, an associate, someone I knew, their child actually went to school with my kid, and she messaged me just panicking because her dog, her little Jack Russell Terrier, ran out on the road and got run over by a car right in front of her kids. Tragic and terrible. And she took it to the vet. And the vet, of course, said, well, we need to do x-rays, and they were sure it had brain damage, and some serious stuff. And they didn't have any money. They couldn't afford it. And the vet just said, well, sorry, see you. So they had to take their precious little Jack Russell home with absolutely no medical help whatsoever. And she called me and said, I don't know what to do. And I said, I will be right there. And I dropped everything I was doing. And I went over and I sat with that animal for about an hour doing the work I did. And I didn't charge her anything for it, because could you imagine, when somebody is desperate, they don't have the money to help their animal. I'm not going to ask them to give me more money. Like that's just not working. It really bothered me that so many people get stuck in that situation. So many people have to euthanize their animal because they just don't have the funds to fix it. And so I don't want anybody to ever feel that way. So if I'm your last resort, come to me, because I will do whatever I can to help. And just as a follow-up, that Jack Russell recovered. She did have some problems with her brain, but we did a lot of work with her, and she's great now. She's running around. Everything's fine. She's totally fine now. So, there is hope.
And I understand that vets and vet practices have to make money. Obviously,
Of
that's how
course.
they live and breathe. But I think if
Yeah.
I was the vet, I would set aside a little bit of money into a fund that
Mm-hmm.
I would keep for really important charitable cases.
Yeah, I think so too. And I do know that there are plenty of vets out there that, kind of almost dig themselves into a hole because they're so giving in that way that they will help without the financial means behind it, which, they can't. We all know, like you said, they need to make their money too. But yeah, that's a great idea, right? Just kind of, if they could put it aside and do what they can, that would be great. So yeah. So this is us. This is who we are. This is how we want to help. And so I'm really looking forward to all of our future recordings we're going to have together, and really breaking down the cat, and sharing with people the information that you've got. And you yourself, you've got two cats yourself. I have two cats
Yep.
myself. And so not only are we experienced working with other people's cats, we got our own, so we know cats. I've had them my whole life
Have
as
fun
well.
over there right now.
Yeah, so Jenny likes to make it,
Jenny wants out.
but she likes to make her appearance, right? She likes to come and join in on these sessions, which is fun.
She does.
Yes. So
Anyway,
Stephen,
thank you, Jen. Yeah,
yes, thank you. This is great, and I look forward to all our time together in the future.
absolutely.
Take
So
care.
good.